To have Bryan Evans with us. Bryan is part of our Awesome Marriage team. He's a great guy. He's been a blessing since he's been here. Thanks for joining me, Bryan.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well, one of the things that you kind of talked about, and I think it's something that's really on my heart. I did a talk not too long ago on it of marriage and ministry, and I think a lot of people struggle with that. I think we're seeing a lot of that with people resigning from ministry and just not being able to figure out how to do both of those. Now that not only you work for Awesome Marriage, you're ordained, you work in your local church, and just a lot of ministry things that you're involved on. So how do you see that dynamic of being in ministry and then having also a healthy balance in your marriage?
Um, it didn't come easy at first. It's taken some kind of getting used to it. Some shifts in my personal life, our personal lives. But one thing about it is, my dad was I'm a preacher's kid. My dad was a pastor and youth pastor most of my life growing up.
Yeah.
And one thing he always instilled in us was that your marriage is your first ministry.
Mm.
And following that, like he modeled it too. Like everything was going on. That was God, of course. His relationship with God was first, but then with my mom, that was his second relationship, and then with me and my brother as well. And he just modeled that for us, and it was he reminds us every now and then too, like don't forget what I taught you, don't forget.
Yeah.
And that's really been a big help to keeping things in perspective and making sure that my wife and I are good before anything else.
Yeah, I think I think what your dad did, I think, is unique in a lot of ways. I see other preachers' kids that never felt like the family or marriage was first. It was always the church, or the I don't know, it's excuse, but like I'm serving God, and that's going to come before everything else. Which you look at God's order, and that's not really true. God's first, then family, spouse, and then your ministry. So I think the fact that you had a dad that stressed that, and then not only stressed it, modeled it for you. I mean, that's huge. That had to be a
Yeah.
huge blessing for you guys.
Oh, it was, and I had many friends who are preachers' kids as well, and many of them are are not even they're not in ministry, much less some of them aren't even in church at all today because they didn't have that good model. They saw
Yeah.
the stress at home from their parents, the conflict between family things and church things and ministry things, and it just wasn't a healthy outcome for them.
Yeah, I think when you've got somebody that's not only telling you things but living it out, like it sounds like your dad did, that makes such a difference. If he had told you those things and just didn't live it out, then probably wouldn't have had the impact. And I think so many people who are preachers' kids just get some real mixed messages growing up in those homes. And not that the intent of the parent or pastor is not good, but it just, anytime we do something out of God's order, it doesn't work very well
Right.
like that. So, what do you guys do now to prioritize your marriage?
Uh, well, our church is very helpful with that. They believe our pastor believes in honoring your family and honoring God through that. And so we're not expected to be at every single little thing that happens throughout the week, thankfully. But he always checks in with us. Hey, are you having your date times? Are you having a one-on-one time together? Are you praying together, having the devotions together? Um, and I think a lot of that really kind of comes together to help, and having your cheerleader as your pastor who's kind of helping you in that area.
Absolutely.
And just reminding us, hey, make sure you're doing the things you're supposed to do to make sure you're good. Because the fact is, if we're not strong as a unit, as a married couple, then I'm not going to be as effective, and she's not going to be as effective in ministry, because we're going to have that piece of us that's lacking, and we're not 100%.
Yeah, I totally agree. You guys have how many kids now? Three?
We have two.
You have two. Okay. And one's a baby.
Right, we have an 8-year-old Lily and our 8-month-old Aria.
Yeah. So you've got both ends of it. So with the new baby, how has that been prioritizing marriage? Obviously, with the new baby, there's challenges and they can't do much on their own for a while. And so how have you
Right.
handled that?
Some of that she has kind of demanded priority in some ways. But it's been great. We have a great team. If there is something going on at church, we usually have childcare available, so
That's
she's
nice.
kind of part of that. There are many other things we do serving as a family, and we try to include her as many of those things as we can. Like I do, she can't do much as an 8-month-old, but
Right.
if she can, she's right there with us. And that's my hope, is that as our kids grow up, they see that modeled for them, just like my brother and I saw it modeled for us.
Absolutely.
Um, and but yeah, so they're a huge part of our lives, and they're kind of right below our personal marriage relationship. Is definitely our kids are right there, very important to us.
That's so good. That's so good. What? What would you say? I guess maybe just talk a little bit about tell people a little bit what you do at Awesome Marriage.
Well, generally, if you're engaging with us on Facebook, if you're messaging us or commenting on Facebook, I'm usually the person talking back to you. Um, Trying to do my best to help you. If it's a funny post, trying to help you laugh. Because I believe in laughter. Laughter is a good medicine. Um, Also involved with the YouTube channel, helping get videos up on there. Um, Twitter, I help handle. I work with Twitter, everything, and Pinterest, put Pinterest posts. So a few things here and there, kind of a broad range of things. But
Yeah, just a lot of social media, and yeah, and I think one of the things I love that we get so many good comments about from Awesome Marriage is that we do answer people, we do respond to people, and you're a big part of that. And I think our engagement, I don't know the statistics, but our engagement on Facebook has grown so much. And I think a lot of that is because we really do respond to people. We care about people. We want them to know that and that we're here to help them. And so I think that's it's been a real blessing to have you and have you taking care of that area for us.
well, it's something I definitely enjoy. I've wondered for years why I've had this fascination, interest in social media since Facebook became a thing in 2005, 2006.
Yes.
And I've always been right there studying it this whole time, but never really had practical use for it. And then just a few years ago, God showed me how can we apply to church, and then now with Awesome Marriage, it's like, hey, all this learning I've done I can actually put it to use now.
It's so good. And I think that, our Awesome Marriage was started on Facebook in 2010. That's where we started was with Facebook and all the posts we did there and trying to help people and pray for them. And then some things changed with Facebook, but it's so good to see the interaction and what's happening on there today. So final question, what are you loving about your marriage today?
It's kind of a difficult question. We've been married 11 years, so we've had, for a majority, our marriage has been great. It hasn't been perfect, but it's been great. I don't have
Yeah.
any stories of really any rocky times, but we've always kind of underlying thing has been we've been lacking of communication.
Mm.
So we decided this year we're really focused on communication, get better at communicating what's going on, communicating how we're feeling, which has not been easy, but it's been an exercise and getting better at that. And just seeing the fruits of that, and just being
Mm.
on the same page a lot better. Um, and Awesome Marriage Resources, you've been a huge help of that. And the things we've been putting out is it's helping us as well. So it's not just we
Yeah.
enjoy what we're recommending because we enjoy it too. But we're seeing a lot of improvement, and our marriage is stronger because of it. I mean, it's better communication
Okay.
is always a good thing.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, it is. We've talked a lot about communication over the last few months because it is such a big topic, and I think it's probably one of the main things we get inquiries about, right? How do we don't have
Right.
good communication? The counseling room, I see it, and so I think being intentional about that, like you guys have, you do see the fruits of it, and
Right.
like you said, it's not easy. Usually, it may be easier for our wives than husbands in most cases, but if we
Right.
can kind of realize, I think for me, it was realizing how important it was to Nancy. And so I got to get there because that helps me connect with her, and most wives want that communication with their spouse.
Right. And part of it too is learning that we don't always see things the same way. We don't process things the same way. And so I want to go ahead and fix things right now. Let's go ahead and talk about it, whatever we need to do, and come to a conclusion. But she needs to process a little bit and take some time to formulate, make sure she says the right thing and
Yeah.
doesn't cut me emotionally. And so working through that, we've discovered those differences, that dynamic, and that's been a huge part of help for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's good. Yeah, because I think most couples, it's kind of interesting. I see that kind of flip flopped. It doesn't seem to be male or female. It seems though in most couples, one wants to solve problems right now and the other wants to process. And I think when you're the one who wants to solve it right now, which Nancy is in our relationship, uh, it's hard for you to let her process probably. And sometimes it's hard for Nancy to let me process because it's like, let's get this done. What's wrong with you? Kind of stuff.
Like the silence is deafening. It's like, when you talk
Yeah,
about this
yeah,
thing, what's
yeah.
going on?
Exactly. So I think that's a good point to bring up that that we have to learn to be patient with our spouse, and it's okay if they process different. Just adjusting to that, accepting that, because when you do that, you're going to have a lot better outcome for sure.
Right.
Very good. Well, Bryan, thank you for being part of Awesome Marriage. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you a lot.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks.